acid cycle. Okay, TCA, although you don't need to know necessarily that one. I just want you to hear the term, so if you happen to see it, if you're reading somewhere else or something, you'll know that's what they're talking about, is citric acid cycle. Now, how many molecules am I sending into the citric acid cycle here? 2, okay? And so this is really important to keep straight. This is going to turn 2 times for every 1 glucose, okay? Because when we talk about how many products it makes, you need to pay close attention, because sometimes on the test, the questions will ask you how many are in the citric acid cycle per glucose or how many per turn, okay? So if it's per glucose, you would take the number per turn and multiply it by 2, okay? I'm going to give you the totals for 2 turns, so if those are the ones that you learned and memorized, then you would divide that by 2 to do per turn, okay? So you just need to keep that in mind, that that is per turn, okay? But here we're going to turn it 2 times, and because we have 2 molecules from glucose, for every 1 glucose for the citric acid cycle, we are going to make more ATP. And what is the reason why we need ATP? Because we want to make energy. So cellular respiration is all about making ATP, okay? ATP is our energy carrier. So we're going to make 2 more. We had 2 net over here, okay? These were net. We had to invest 2, and so we made 4, and then that means since we had to spend 2 to make 4, we had 2 left, okay? We made our 2 energy carriers. We made 2 more energy carriers here, okay? And we are now in the matrix of the mitochondria, okay? So we're now in the matrix. So the citric acid cycle occurs in the matrix, all right? Now, the citric acid cycle is going to be way more productive, all right? It's going to make our 2 ATP. We could put our ATP on over here as well. Probably need to do that. All right. Here, we're also going to make 2 ATP. We're going to put a whole lot more electrons on our energy carriers, okay? And so we've got NAD. We are going to make 6. We're going to take 6 NAD and turn that into NADH, okay? So we're sending 6 more of these over here. But we have 2 little shuttles that we can use, okay? We have 2 electron carriers. So we have NAD+, and then we have FADH. If I add an H and electron, then I'm going to have FADH2, okay? FADH2. So that's one of our other electron carriers here, all right? And so I'm going to send 2 of those. So 2 FADH2, all right? So we have NAD+, and it's going to become NADH, all right? And then we had FADH. We're going to add an electron and a hydrogen to it. It's going to be FADH2, all right? And so they're not doing anything with these hydrogens and these electrons other than carrying them over where we need them to be, where we're going to get the most bang for our buck, all right? So the whole goal of our processes here is to get to the last step. One more thing on citric acid cycle. They're also going to have a byproduct of 4CO2. That's going to be a byproduct, 4CO2, all right? When we exercise, we're doing cellular respiration. We're taking oxygen in. What are we breathing out? Carbon dioxide, okay? Now, any guesses on what all this squiggly stuff is in here that I put on this? Of the structure of a mitochondria. Cristae. So we are actually sitting on the cristae here, okay? So this is occurring on the cristae of the mitochondria, okay? Which is the inner membrane, all right? And so we've been taking all these electrons over here and transporting them to what we call the electron transport chain. And this is also under aerobic. So all 3 of these processes here need oxygen, all right? So electron transport chain, and it's in red. So what else do you see in here that's in red? ATP, all right, because it's energy. So one of these sections is much, much more efficient. This is the end of the transport system here, and we're going to make a whole lot more ATP, okay? So that is why it's in red. It's because this is where the majority of the ATP is made in the electron transport chain, okay? So here we're going to make a total of 32 to 34 ATP. You think that's way more efficient? Yeah, okay? So I'm just going to make a great big arrow here. We're going to keep the total down there. Now, is this 32 to 34? Am I just guessing, or why do you think it says 32 to 34? Why don't we have an exact number? It's an estimate, okay? Part of it is it depends on how we shuttle, whether we use FADH or NADH to carry the electrons, okay? So depending on the electron carrier, and this is just normal environmental conditions, okay? We can make differing amounts. We're also going to have another byproduct here of CO2. So we're going to have 2 CO2 as a byproduct. All right. And then we're going to make something else that becomes pretty important. We're going to make water. Okay. We're going to make 12 water molecules. And this is really important because in cellular respiration, we are going to take these electrons and the hydrogens, which basically act as protons, and use those to do chemiosmosis, all right? And so we've got to drive those through to make our ATP. It's going to help power our ATP enzyme, which is called ATP synthase. We'll go over that again in a minute, all right? And so oxygen here is going to be what we call the final electron acceptor. The final electron acceptor, because what have we been doing? We've just been passing electrons off this whole time, okay? Passing the electrons off, all right? And so we have to have a place to put those when we're done with them, and that's going to be oxygen, okay? And so we're going to make 12 molecules of water out of that, all right? So why do we breathe? I usually start with this, but I didn't, so we're going to go over it now. Why do we breathe? We breathe to take in oxygen. Now, knowing what I just told you about cellular respiration, is that oxygen important? Yes, but most of the time when I start off, we haven't gone over any of this, and I say, why do we breathe? People say, well, to live, right? We do. It's because we have to have that oxygen in order to make ATP, okay? All of these cellular processes that we do take energy, a whole lot of energy, okay? And so we're going to have most energy made here at the electron transport chain, and then those electrons are going to be sent to oxygen, and it combined with the excess hydrogens are going to make water molecules, all right? And so oxygen is the final electron acceptor. So how many total ATP have I made here? The whole process. 36 to 38, okay? So we are taking glucose here in the beginning. And what is this first step here doing? We're going to break this down into, into 2 pyruvate. What type of reaction is that, catabolic or anabolic? This is a catabolic reaction, right? We're breaking something down. And where does this occur? In the cytosol. Good. And we invest 2 ATP, okay? Because have you ever heard it takes money to make money? Right? So you got to invest a little bit to get it started, okay? And so we invest 2 ATP. We make a total of 4. So we have 2 ATP that we've actually gained. So that's our 2 net, okay? Then we are putting our electrons on our NAD, converting it to NADH and sending it where? Over here to the electron transport chain, okay, where we have to have oxygen. For this, we didn't need any oxygen, right? Right? And so then we're going to be on the doorstep of the mitochondria to the link reaction, where we're going to oxidize that pyruvate, which oxidation means what? Loss of electrons. So we're going to take those electrons off of that and put them onto NADH. All right? So then we're going to send that on down to the electron transport chain. We're kind of loading our electrons here to get this process going. That's what all these first steps are about, is just loading the electrons and hydrogens onto the shuttles to get them down to the electron transport chain. Okay? Then we're going to have some waste product here, some CO2. We're going to be in the matrix then. We're going to send that acetyl-CoA. These are the reactants, okay? So glucose was the reactant here. This was the product. Pyruvate was the reactant here. Acetyl-CoA is one of the products, and then carbon dioxide and NADH. We're going to send acetyl-CoA. So is it the reactant or product for citric acid cycle? It's the reactants, what we're putting in, right? And so we're going to make a whole lot more. We're going to load a whole lot more of these energy carriers, right? And then we're going to send that on. I don't have an arrow going to the electron transport chain. Why is that? Because we're sending them via the shuttles, right? We don't have anything going directly there other than via these shuttles, okay? And so we're going to make 32 to 34 ATP and some water and have some more carbon dioxide as byproduct, okay? And so this is cellular respiration. We're going to switch to our PowerPoint now, and